Hello, welcome to another Friday Waffle. It's Friday at last and the weekend is just around the corner. What have I got to talk about today? I've got my little yellow sticker thing of a couple of things I want to talk about. Firstly, what have I been up to this week, gaming wise? I was trying to run a piece of software on my Mamemeister and unfortunately it wouldn't run. It was coming up with some DLL dynamic library blah 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 error, which didn't mean a toss to me. So I googled it and somebody recommended I put this particular file on, another DLL file on it, so I did that and the game still wouldn't work and I threw my toys out the pram and I gave up. Then when I went back to it the following day, I went to fire up the Mamemeister and put on, I think it was a Mega Drive emulator, a Mega Drive game I was going to play, and it was coming up with this bloody DLL error. So I then spent, was it Tuesday night, I then spent the best part of, in fact I didn't spend the best part, I spent all Tuesday night up till 1 AM. It was like the old days back in Windows 95 getting your computer on. I spent all night up to 1 AM trying to get this bloody error to disappear. I tried everything. I was trying to install, was it VB runtime libraries, some damn thing. I was installing the latest version of that. I was uninstalling it. I was running a DirectX diagnostic thing. I was running one of my computer illiterate mates told me to do a command prompt SRC or some damn thing. Basically you get Windows to scan your all your files. When I tried that, it was asking for the CD. Now obviously I've got a Mamemeister, I've not got a bloody DVD thing in it. So I had to, what was that pinging? Hang on a little second, what was that noise? Something made that pinging noise. Was it? Was it this? Was it the phone? Okay, bloody was it somebody. It's Mr. Ian Cullen Facebooking me. I'll speak to you later. Sorry about that. So anyway, I tried that. So it was asking for a disc, and obviously there's not a DVD drive on my cab, so I had to disconnect my HD DVD drive from my Xbox 360 and plug it into, stop contacting me on Facebook, Ian, I can hear you pinging it away. I connected the DVD drive thing up to the Mamemeister, and oh, what a palaver. I said I spent about 5-6 hours. I don't know what the hell that was. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, yeah, cut a long story short, couldn't get it working, and I was that close from wiping my PC and putting an image back in it, because what I did was I made an image file off it a couple of weeks ago. I was that close to doing it. I was just getting so fed up with this thing not working. And lo and behold, about 1:45 in the morning, I did another little Google and somebody mentioned about this particular file which I had copied across. It's a Vista only file and it could actually impact on XP. So I did what they told me to do, and that was to rename the file old, put an old extension, and lo and behold everything is working again. So learn from me, guys. If you've got a PC, which you probably have, or a Mamemeister, whatever, don't fanny about with it, because the more you fuck about with these things, the more you're going to break them, and you don't want that, believe you me. So yeah, that wasn't very constructive. I spent a lot of time trying to get this thing working again, which is a pain in the arse. Games wise, what have I been playing? I've been playing a lot of Berserk. I'm really I think it was last week I mentioned that I was thinking that Berserk was going to be a bit limiting and a bit boring to play. Well, I must admit, I've got the bit between my teeth with Berserk. I'm starting to get a wee bit better at it. Before I was struggling to get over a couple of thousand. Now I can usually get about 4,000 or 5,000 pretty much every game, and I'm starting to really enjoy it. It's a great game. So I'll be doing another how to I Want to Be a Video Game Champ update probably over the weekend. So yeah, enjoying that. What else games wise? I've pre-ordered Last of Us for the PS4. Completed it on the PS3. I don't know if anybody hasn't played this game and has got either a PS3 or a PS4, or at least at the moment if you've got a PS3, then do yourself a favour and buy it. It's an absolutely astonishing game. The the whole landscape that you're sort of, you know, the game engine that it uses is astonishing. The storyline is, it's just, it blows your mind. It's an amazingly emotional, it draws you in, the whole, you know, the whole storyline. The acting is absolutely fantastic. It's not like the old days of the PlayStation when it was like wooden actors. This is absolutely stunning. So anyway, yeah, I've pre-ordered Last of Us. I got it for £30, which is really good. If anybody is interested, let me know. Ping me a message or a comment, and I'll dig out the link where I got it from. Pre-order for 30 quid for a PlayStation 4 game is not bad in my book. So let me know if you want that link, guys, and I'll post it. The only other game I've been playing, and it's utterly superb, is Virtual Pool 4. I used to play Virtual Pool. In fact, it was Virtual Pool, then they updated. I don't know what happened to. There was a Virtual Pool which wasn't online. Then there was Virtual Pool 2 which wasn't online. Then Virtual Pool 3 brought out the online facility. Now, I used to play this online back in 1999, 2000. It was all played using a dial-up modem, and it's as sweet as a peanut. Absolutely cracking game. So Virtual Pool 4 came out fairly recently, and I've been playing. It's utterly superb. It is about the most realistic game you could get, or pool game you could get, other than actually playing the real game. You use the mouse to kind of cue, you know, you pull it back and forwards, depending on how fast you move it determines the speed. It's absolutely brilliant. So me and one of my mates, we play that. We go online, we play first to five frames. It's utterly superb. There's pool, there's snooker, there's all the different versions of the game. So yeah, Virtual Pool, that's on the PC. It might be out for Mac as well, I'm not too sure. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. I've been doing a bit more bead art. I did, what did I do? The ball thing from Whizball. The only thing is, it's the sprite has got a lot of white, it's got white around the edges, and when I put it against my white wall, you couldn't really see it properly. It looked a bit naff. So what I've done is I've put a kind of black border around it. So the jury's still out whether it's good or not. But I've done it, so I'll probably put it up in the wall anyway, because I've got bloody stacks of beads. So that's that. That's what I've been up to. What I'm going to talk about today is, what did I call it? Video game mags. What ones did you buy? What were the best, and are they still relevant? Where did I start? Well, I'll tell you my story. Back in probably late 83, early 84, in fact, late 83 I would say it was, I started getting, when I became aware of computers, the most common, the one that I started buying was computer and video games. It was the only, I mean, there was other games, there was other computer magazines out there, but it was all things like, I don't know, I can't even remember the name of them. Your PC, your micro, stuff like that, personal micro, whatever the hell they were called, and they were very, very dull magazines. You know, they would look at programming, they would look at VisiCalc, they would look at spreadsheet software. It was for the real nerds with the sort of corduroy trousers and brown jackets and the sellotape and the glasses. You know, it was the real kind of computer geeky type people. But then computer video games came along, and it was really primarily focused on. In fact, it wasn't primarily focused. It was purely games, video games, arcade games, adventure games. So yeah, like most people my age who are into computers, I got computer and video games for a good couple of years. The problem with that was they obviously covered every sort of platform. So if you had, like in my case, I had a Texas T1994A, and there was virtually bugger all coverage for that computer, which was a bit rubbish. You know, you'd buy it eagerly wanting to get a type-in game for it, and the only type-in games were for like the I don't know, the Spectrum, the VIC-20, is it the TRS or something, Tandy I think it was. So yeah, it was pretty limiting. You know, a lot of the content of that didn't really apply. But then all these things changed when I mean, Crash magazine came out. I don't know when it came out. Was it mid '83 or something? And this was basically a magazine it was put together by fans of computer games. I believe Crash used to actually they used to employ school children. It's not as bad as it sounds, and they used to give these kids games to take away to play, and then they would tell them, you need to give us a review, give us your thoughts on the games. So that's how Crash kind of started off. It was very much a kind of fan base, school type magazine type thing. I didn't have a Spectrum, so I wasn't really particularly interested in the Crash magazine. But then looking on, it was John Menzies at the time, looking at all the magazines and John Menzies one day, I spotted this thing called Zap 64. I'm sure it was called Zap 64, it wasn't called just Zap. And I picked it up, and here was a magazine very much in the same style of Crash, but dedicated to the Commodore 64. So I bought that. I think it was 85 pence. I don't know why I remember that. And it was an absolutely fantastic magazine. At the start there were three reviewers. There was Jazz Rignall, who still does a lot of stuff. I think he does a lot. He lives in America now. He does a lot of kind of reviewing games and that kind of stuff for an online mag. There was Gary Penn, who was also one of the reviewers. Gary now he now lives in Scotland, and he works for, is it Denki Games, I think it is, mobile games. And then there was also Gary Ludden. Gary again, he went on to found he founded Thalamus Software, and then he did a lot of programming, and then he got involved with Climax. He was a top dog with Climax, and now works at Ruffian Games. And these guys, basically, when I read the reviews of the games, they would say this game's shite, this game's great, whatever. I used to start buying games. I mean, that became the Bible. Back then there was no such thing. There was no such thing as internet. So we had to rely on people. You could pay $9.99 for a game, take it home and discover it was absolutely garbage, and you couldn't take your. I mean, you could try and take it back and get your money back, but 9 times out of 10 they would just give you another. If you took it back and said it doesn't work, all they would do is give you another copy of it, sort of thing. So yeah, we had to basically rely on these magazines to tell us what games to buy. Now, I found very quickly that the games that they rated, I rated as well. I mean, things like they rated obviously World Games, Summer Games 2. They didn't do Possible Mission because that was already out before Zap came about. But yeah, when they said a game was good, you could pretty much guarantee the game was going to be good. And what you tend to find was you would find that one particular reviewer liked the games that you liked, and in my case it was probably Jazz Rignall. But saying that, all the guys invariably tended to agree with each other. You would always maybe get one of them. I mean, the way they basically did it, they would all play the game, and then they would give their own thoughts and opinions on the game. Sometimes you would get two liking a game, one of them wouldn't like the game. But yeah, again, it was written very much in a sort of fanzine type layout. I suppose you could almost say it looked like a kind of homemade effort, and possibly it was done like that. I mean, what I found quite surprising, I got given a big bundle of Zap magazines about maybe 5-6 years ago, and what I found really surprising was the amount of content excuse me, the amount of content in these that were actually in black and white. I mean, I always imagined it was all in full colour, but a lot of it was in black and white. I think later issues did become full colour, but I found that quite surprising. So yeah, Zap magazine. I mean, the absolutely crazy thing is, and this is where the internet has really changed the way people interact with one another. Gary Ludden is now a good mate of mine's. I mean, I know Gary very well. Gary comes along to our computer club. In fact, I mean, he was along at the computer club about a month ago. It was last month, and he was asking me if I had a Commodore 64, and I said I have. And he was actually asking Gary and Gary Penn are actually doing. They've been asked to review some Commodore 64 games for an up and coming Commodore 64 book. And Gary was asking if I had a Commodore 64 that he could borrow, and he says, well, why don't you come up to Gary Penn's house with it, and we can go through the games. So it's not happened yet, but I just thought, this is mental. You know, back in 1985, I was reading that magazine. I was looking at reading the reviews of all these guys. You know, I suppose you would say they weren't heroes as such, but they were guys who you looked up to. I mean, they basically became sort of micro celebrities, you know, in the gaming world. You know, reading about these guys and looking at photographs of them, and then here I am, you know, 2014. I don't know how, 30 years on. I'm maybe going to go to Gary Penn's house with Gary Liddon to review some 64 games. It's just absolutely mental. It totally blows my mind that we've got this kind of thing with social media, the internet, YouTube, Facebook, you know, absolutely crazy. So yeah, Zap 64, what other magazines did I buy? I bought in the 16-bit, that was, I mean, the Spectrum had Crash, you had the Zap 64 for the Commodore 64, and you had Amptix for the Amstrad. You had not the Commodore 64, you had Computer and Video Games, which basically covered all of them. So it was Zap and C64 were the two that I bought. When 16-bit games came out, obviously there was Amiga format, there was the Atari format, but then there were some multi-system games came out which were fantastic. There was Ace magazine, which was Ace. It didn't last particularly long. What I liked about the Ace magazine, rather than have a sort of a score out of 10, what they used to do is, like, you know, lastability. They would have like a sort of a chart, like an ascent chart. You'd see it starting off, it would go up and up and up, and then it would tail off. So you could actually look at that and think, that's how much interest I'm going to have in that game. It was quite revolutionary the way they did things. There was Ace. There was, there was a Games Machine, which again was, I think it was Gary Penn actually started, he was the editor for the Games magazine. It was primarily a 16-bit machine magazine. Then obviously when the consoles came out, the Mega Drive, the Nintendo, NES, the SNES, they brought out, what did they have? You had the official Nintendo magazines, which were a bit sterile. You tend to find that every game got 99%, so you know, you had to kind of turn a blind eye to that, or take the reviews with a pinch of salt. But the console market really changed, magazines changed when they brought out Mean Machines. Again, that was Jazz Rignall, actually, he was the main guy for these. And these guys, they would basically take games that were released in Japan, and you know, they used real full colour photographs, and they used to really rave about some of these games, things like, you know, Street Fighter 2 and the SNES. And the unfortunate thing was, a lot of the games that they would look at weren't physically available in the UK. So the games that you're reading about, you couldn't buy. You'd maybe have to wait 6 months, but they were really exciting games. They featured a lot of manga kind of artwork. They were really well produced. So you had Mean Machines. It was basically the SNES and the Mega Drive, PC Engine as well. Then later on they actually split, so you actually had the Mega Drives, Sega, and Mega Drives Nintendo. And I think these magazines didn't run for that great a time, that great a period. I mean, the 16-bit machines, the console wise, and they were maybe running for about 2 years before the kind of PC took over. 16-bit computer wise, I said you had the Atari ST, you had the Commodore Amiga, or Amiga format it was, and then the Amiga Power was again it was a games mag for the Commodore Amiga. It was an excellent magazine. There was about half a dozen, if not more, reviewers writing for Amiga Power. One of my favourites was a fellow Scot, Stuart Campbell, the Reverend as he's known in the internet circles. Now Stuart actually was born and bred not far from me, a place called Bathgate. He's a typical Scot. Stuart speaks his mind. He's not afraid to speak his mind, and for that reason he gets a lot of people's backs up. But I'll tell you one thing about Stuart: you read a review of a game that he's done, and if he hates a game, he'll tell you it's shite. He really will. I mean, it's maybe a Scottish trait. He'll tell you exactly how it is, and a lot of people don't like him for that because he speaks his mind. But I would bet your life that you read a review with Stuart, and you'll go away and play the game, and you'll think he was absolutely bang on with that. He really was. because he speaks his mind. A lot of people don't like him. I mean, Stuart loves an argument. I mean, if you Google him, there's tons of articles about Stuart. You know what I mean? He's one of a kind. But to my mind, he's up there. He's probably my favourite computer video game reviewer. He's just absolutely on the money when it came to reviewing games. So yeah. So that was pretty much the sort of games, not the games, the magazines that I used to buy. What was the other points I was going to say? Video game mags, what ones did you buy? What was the best? So yeah, I've already kind of covered that. Are they still relevant? Well, now that we've got the internet, I mean, back then, before the internet, magazines were the only. There was no such thing as video game TV programs. Well, you had Mamemeister, which I can talk about. That's a subject all on its own. But yeah, magazine-wise, that was the only medium you really had to see what games were good. Unless one of your mates bought a game and he would tell you it was crap or good, whatever it was. But magazines were all we had to go by. Now we've got the internet, you've got people like myself reviewing games on YouTube. You've got dedicated game websites, which are bang up to date. I mean, you get like the E3 shows, you've got video footage, you've got reviews, you've got previews, you've got all these articles available instantly. Whereas, you know, so a magazine now, I mean, I'll be honest, I've not bought a magazine for a good couple of years. I can't even remember the last. In fact, I'll tell a lie. The only gaming magazine I buy now is Retro Gamer, and for obvious reasons. The thing with Retro Gamers, it's not about current news. The stuff that they talk about is ancient, so it's pretty irrelevant, you know, as far as it being out of date, because everything that they're talking about is out of date anyway. So it's not relevant for a sort of a classic video games magazine. But as far as reviewing like PS4, PS3, whatever current consoles, I'm afraid to say the internet is the way to go, because it's free. You get videos, you're getting to see exactly what it looks like, you've got people's comments. A magazine, by the time you get it, it's probably about a month out of date. So it's really, I don't think that games magazines are particularly relevant. Don't get me wrong, I love nothing more than reading a magazine. You know, you can't beat that. There's no comparison between holding a physical magazine in your hand than reading a screen on a PC. But yeah, I mean, they still obviously do knock out these magazines. I've not bought one for a while. I mean, the price, the last time I bought one, you're talking about £6-7 for a magazine. And I found, I mean, especially the sort of like the Xbox 360, the PS3 magazines, they're bloody boring. It's just, they're basically glorified adverts for the same games over and over and over and over and over again. Back in the day when you're reading Zap, you know, you could see what it was. This is what the game's like. This is how it plays. This is the comments, the criticisms. But now you get these magazine reviews run on to 10, 20 pages. And I just find, maybe it's because I'm not particularly interested in modern games, but I just find them bloody as dull as dishwater. I really do. I say they're basically glorified adverts. And another thing as well is, it's the same games, you know, the modern games. It's, you know, Call of Duty 4, blah blah blah, Black Ops. Like, guys, the battery ran out. I'm almost finished anyway. So what was I talking about? Yeah, what was I talking about? Yeah, gaming mags, modern gaming mags. I just find they're extremely dull. I say it's maybe because I'm not particularly interested in the games that they're reviewing. They tend to waffle on in so much detail, and you know, I just want to know, what's the game like? Is it any good? But yeah, I says the last gaming magazine I bought was a good few years ago. And I says that, I mean, they're now £5-6 to buy, and I found that I was just flicking through it. I actually found that I was actually flicking past most pages, and there was absolutely very, very little that interests me. But like I says, gaming mags now, personally, I do think they're irrelevant. I mean, back in the day, you got like a CD, yeah, it was a CD with Commodore with Amiga format. it had demos, etc., which was great. You could try demos of games. Obviously, in the sort of the later stages of the 8-bit machines, you had giveaway tapes and that kind of stuff with Zap and Crash, which was great because you got demos of them. Nowadays, all these demos are available online. So I really think that that the internet has really knocked gaming magazines' relevance on the head. I don't know whether you agree or disagree with that, guys. But I think that is about it. That's all I have really got to talk about. It's probably gone on long enough anyway. So, yep. Coming up, what have I got planned? Going to be more. I want to be a video game champ on Berserk. More bead art, more mashups. In fact, I'm actually planning to do an updated sort of hardware review, which I'm hopefully going to get done today as well. So yeah, anyway guys, I don't know when you watch this. If you're watching this on Friday when I'm making this, have a good weekend. As usual, thanks for watching. I appreciate all comments, and if you do like what I do, I would love it if you could hit that subscribe button. And as usual, thanks for watching.